Welcome to the What Are We Doing Phillies Interview Series podcast. Today our guest is Chris Manero, Plymouth Township Council member at large, PW, history teacher, and varsity baseball coach.
And we are back with another edition of these interview podcasts. I was supposed to do one last week, and then last week didn't happen because the person I was supposed to do it with got booked up and canceled around, and I couldn't redo it. And then I recorded a different podcast, the Exit 333 podcast, with two of my friends, and that's on YouTube. If you want to listen to it, I'll put the link in the description. Plug my own podcast early. So today I bring on a new person in my long list of people I have written up on my whiteboard, and this was one of the ones I was more excited to do. Mr. Manero is my government teacher and the baseball coach here at the school. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And by the way, if they're ever available, I would purchase an Exit 333 T-shirt because we all live here at Exit 333 off the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
That's great. You actually picked that. I had to explain to a lot of people what Exit 333 actually meant. I'm like, you picked that up pretty quickly.
Got to know your hometown.
Got to know your hometown exit. So we'll get to some things. Since the last time I talked, because it's been 2 weeks, and I normally go over some more current things. I do breaking news podcasts whenever there's some piece of news. I forgot to start the stopwatch. I'm going to do that now. But we started to talk about all these different things in the last podcast, and I normally do breaking news podcast with even the dumbest signing like Colby Allard. I did a breaking news podcast with him. So in that range, I needed to mention and bring up that they did sign an outfielder to a minor league contract, Carlos De La Cruz, 28 years old, 5 MLB seasons, 251, 295, and 402 with a career OPS of 697. It's nothing special. An outfield depth piece. He was invited to spring training. And it's not the big move they're going to make, but it's a move to at least talk about that they have done something already before really any team has.
He seems like one of those kind of guys that there's no risk involved, right? No. Buy low. And you see that a guy like him who came out and was good as a young player, who was good when he first came up, but really just kind of has a little, I would say, steady and slowly sort of dwindled. But sometimes a change of scenery, sometimes a different system, different hitting coach. So, yeah, I mean, you got to stock up on those guys this time of year because you never know when you might need that depth. You never know who you might need to add some competition for at spring training. So, you know, if that's our first move of the hot stove season, I could think of worse moves.
Yeah, he played with Miami and Atlanta, so he has NL East division ties and probably has hit the Phillies well in his career because it feels like anyone in our division has hit the Phillies well. And the only other move they made was since I last talked, they officially signed Alvarado to a $9 million deal. And that brings up an interesting controversy. I struggled rooting for him at the end of last year with the suspension and all that stuff that happened, and then knowing he wasn't going to help us in the playoffs, and then having to then now root for him again next year. I don't know how much and he's good. He's a good pitcher. He's a wild disaster sometimes to watch on the mound, but I don't know how much you're going to have a lot of people still fully buying in on him.
He's good more than he's bad. At his best, he's dominant. When he came back last year, it was kind of interesting to see how they could set up the back end of that bullpen. When you had guys like him and Strom and Kirkering, and you hadn't even gotten to Duran yet, I think that he just needs to flush last season. He made a mistake. I thought he handled it pretty well. But put that behind him and move forward. And if he comes back as the Jose Alvarado that he was, it really strengthens your bullpen. And I feel like they're confident in him doing that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given him that deal.
Yeah, I think it was a qualifying. It was some offer that they sent out to him, and he has had very good numbers. There are times when a guy like that, of course, when they throw that fast, they're going to have wild moments. But when he was locked in, I think it was 23. Yeah, 23 at a 1.47 ERA. Mm-hmm. He was absolutely dominant, and then it didn't go too well in 24 with a 4.09 and a 1.25 whip in 60 innings. So
I think sometimes his numbers get
spewed.
Yeah, because he might have a bad game here or there, and then all of a sudden it's hard to come back from those numbers. But then he'll go out there and he'll be dominant for a month. So I like him.
Yeah, he's a decent guy for the Phils to have around. So I kind of jumped to the news first because that's kind of important for anyone who only listens to like the first few minutes. Like, maybe don't want to hear this. You get the news. Now, how long have you been a Phillies fan?
Kevin, July 26th, 1987, Phillies, Braves, Sunday afternoon, Raisinets, Phillies windbreaker jacket day was the first Phillies game I ever went to. The Phillies hit back-to-back-to-back home runs that day. I think it was like Juan Samuel, Von Hayes, Mike Schmidt, something like that. So I've been I guess I started watching the Phillies a little bit before that when I was like 6, 7 years old. But yeah, I've been a Philly. I would say that my Phillies fandom was born on July 26th, 1987. Long before you entered this.
They won
wonderful
that game, right?
They did win that game against the Braves. And the Phillies were not good in the late 80s and the early 90s when I was a kid. Other than 1993, my childhood was spent watching bad baseball teams year after year after year. And it wasn't really until that sort of the Jim Thome signing, as the Phillies opened the new ballpark in 2003, was exciting. They started to get more competitive. And then by 2007, I finally got to see the Phillies
I entered
win.
the world in 2007.
Well, that's a lot of good things happened. The Phillies won the NL East. Braves collapsed. They won the World Series the next year. They got to the World Series. It was a golden era, which is why it's exciting, I think, for you guys now that you're really living through this era of Phillies baseball since 2022, where they've been competitive every year.
Yeah, it's been nice to be able to actually watch a good team and
Sure.
following other teams around baseball because I follow the Padres as my second favorite team, and they're not as consistent. And
Right.
it's interesting. Like we are lucky in this age right now with most of the teams in our sports region, with the Eagles doing sensationally well, the Flyers or whatever, and the Sixers are pretty good. We have it's an easy time to become a sports fan.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but the Padres, the year they signed Manny Machado, it was the same offseason when the Phillies signed Bryce Harper, and it was like, are the Phillies going to get Machado? Are they going to get Harper? Like, who's going to go where? So if you kind of measure the Phillies and the Padres since that signing, I'll bet you their records are probably pretty similar. But the Phillies have had more postseason success, and you could almost say that, hey, man, Harper's been more valuable to the Phillies than Machado has been to the Padres. The Padres just haven't kind of gotten over that hump yet.
Padres went and Tatis became more of a star than Machado did.
Machado's probably had better numbers than Harper since he's total in those total years, but they have other pieces. The Phillies do.
The one thing San Diego has done better than the Phils is beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. They've done that a few times, and the Phillies had one chance. It didn't go too well, and as we're still not that far away, everyone trying to get over that one. And
the Dodgers are good. The Dodgers are good. They're
Very
just
good
a
team.
little bit better than the Phillies were.
And as I think when I did this last on the 29th, the series wasn't over yet. So I haven't done one of these since the World Series ended, and Game 7, almost. I was rooting for the Blue Jays because I don't like the Dodgers, and
I think, look, as Phillies fans, as guys that are not fans of either really the Dodgers or the Phillies, we won because it was a great World Series to watch. Maybe one of the best, maybe the best World Series of all time, if not one of. So at least we got that.
At least we got something, and then people. There was a little bit in me that wanted them to hit a big home run to end the series, and not because then it wouldn't technically be against us, and we would have a new moment.
Yes, and again, you weren't alive when the Blue Jays hit a big home run to win their last World Series, but I was in 9th grade, and it was devastating. It was devastating.
Seems like I said on the last one I had, and Mr. D'Onofrio was on here, and he said that he wanted to put his head inside a pillowcase and suffocate himself.
Well, I won't go that far. But.
And I said that would be a screaming street moment for me, and don't go near my house during the playoffs, ever. But now we set our eyes past Kerkering throwing the ball over JT's head, or to the right when you just could have thrown the ball to first base, and trying to move on to today, tomorrow, and yesterday, today, and Thursday. This podcast won't get out till Thursday, but these are the 3 days for the main awards for award season, and of those 3, we have a running person in all 3 of them. Number 1 was the manager of the year which I have no idea how Rob Thompson got even in the race for that, but I guess he's a good regular season manager. He did not win. He got one first place vote. I do wonder who that one first place vote was. Never going to figure that out. Pat Murphy won, the Brewers manager. That's back-to-back years, and Terry Francona got second. I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah, first of all, look, I'm going to be a little less critical than you of Topper. I think he's a good manager. I think he's managing a club of a lot of veteran players, guys very established in their careers. It's hard. You're like a boss, right? You're managing people. One or two moves that he did in the playoffs I didn't like, but I think he is a good manager for that team. Baseball managers are interesting because they're not devising plays like a football coordinator or like a basketball coach. You definitely are managing more of the clubhouse, I think, than anything. Of course, occasionally you have to, put on a bunt. You're gonna make a pitching change. But how well do you steer that ship from March until October, I think, is the question. And look, I mean, you look at the Brewers and what Murphy did. That team just took off about midway through the season and was really good. And look at Terry Francona. I mean, other than when he was a young rookie manager with the Phillies, a team that had absolutely zero talent in the late 90s, Terry Francona wins wherever he goes. And there's got to be something to be said about his style and everything. So I think the right guy won, but I think you look at Francona and Topper and Pat Murphy, and I would say you're looking at three of the top managers in the National League in baseball for sure.
Makes an interesting point. So you being the baseball coach for PW, and that, when you're watching games, do you ever think about you being in your coaching mind instead of just a fan mind?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot, and it's hard though because the game at the major league level is played a little bit differently than at the high school level. You're seeing less bunting, less of the small game. Not stealing as many bases. You're not bunting as much. You don't see guys getting up there and deliberately situationally hitting as much. You see a lot more sluggers, guys getting up there to kind of take things over. And look, that's the game. That's the major league game, the analytics and all this. And so sometimes you watch the major leaguers play and get a little frustrated. But that's one of the great things I think about the postseason. Those a Game 7, a Game 6, you are doing whatever it takes to win, and it is amazing how you see more of that strategy all of a sudden come into play. It's kind of like watching college baseball and watching the college baseball playoffs and the College World Series. That's where it's really fun to watch because you are seeing hey, are they going to bunt here? What are they going to do in this situation? You watch the Major League regular season, and the worst thing is they put that dumb runner on second base in extra innings, but how many times you why aren't they bunting here? Why don't they get that runner into scoring position? And a lot of times they don't, and they're playing the percentages. So it is fun to watch the game in that way, but I don't necessarily think it's always fair to hold a major league manager to the standard of what would my high school baseball team do in that situation.
So on the same lines, this is a question that we always have, watching the game. You're sitting there, and it's more of a, do you look at the paper and the stats, or do you pay attention more to the eye test of what you're watching? And I go back and forth. And I think you have to go back and forth. But it's tough, you're watching a game, come on, do this. And no, but the analytics say to do this. I'm but I'm watching the game, and I see that you're not doing said thing. So, does that, what's your opinion?
Look,
where do you fall?
If they kept using analytics and it wasn't working, they would stop doing it, right? So it is working. And look, even in high school baseball, we have data on the other hitters. We position our fielders based on what data we have. We don't have 180, 90, 200 games worth of data, but we have enough. And so we use it at a little bit of a lesser level, but somewhat. So I think anything, you have to keep things in balance. Use your analytics, use your data to position your fielders to decide what should I do in this situation, what's got the highest probability of succeeding. But then, I think sometimes you have to let the situation take over. No matter what, you're going to pat yourself on the back if you made the right decision, or you're going to second guess yourself if you made the wrong decision. But I do think feel for the game is important. That's what's hard with these managers, especially. You can't quantify that. I think about it as a coach sometimes. You have a decision, and a lot of times I say, just what does my gut tell me? Because if I think about doing something and then I second guess myself, I feel like I usually get it wrong. So, it's a hybrid. I do think that, like, there were times in baseball where it seems like they went so overboard with the analytics. And what's fortunate is the rules now about relievers have to face 3 pitchers. The shift rules. You can't have everybody on one side of the infield. I think they were really making the game worse by overdoing it with that. And I think now that they've changed some of those rules, taken some of the analytics out of it by the way they have to play, I actually think the game has gotten better.
So, yeah, with rule changes, we have the umpire, the rule change coming with the ball strike, I forget, the ABS system, that's what it's called. I know, like, my grandfather's take, and we talk about, he's on the podcast a lot, and his take, and most of ours is we cannot stand normal umpires. And watching, and like my grandfather's point, and I like this one too, the box on the screen makes it almost more frustrating to watch the game compared to when there was no box. I never experienced no box on the screen. But he's saying, like, when he watched with no box on the screen, it's like that extra level of pain now that you get by watching it and seeing the box on the screen and then seeing them like, oh, you could have called that a strike. That's just barely on the line. Are you ready for that?
First of all, I maybe I'm just too nice, but I think sometimes, yes, we get frustrated when that box shows up and we know that the call was wrong, right? But if you look at most games, beginning to end, look at that box, man, they get a lot right.
They do get they got a lot right. It's surprising.
They get a lot right in real time, 99-mile-an-hour pitches with movement. They don't have the luxury of seeing that box. And sometimes it's, if you really take a step back and you think, man, like, that's impressive that they, because about the high school game and, again, every level is different, obviously, but, I've seen pretty egregious missed calls. And I'm like, all right, well, that would never happen in a major league game. So I think that those guys they should get a lot of credit for how many they get right as opposed to those that get wrong. But at the same time, like, the technology is available, right? And, I think instant replay has changed the game in a good way, in that, like, you now no longer have a bad call be the difference maker in a game. I mean, this guy years ago, Armando Galarraga, that was about to throw a perfect game or no-hitter for the Tigers, and there was a bad call at first base, like, took away his no-hitter. And that would never happen now. Of course, it was more fun without replay because you had more arguments. Managers coming out to argue more. But I'm excited for this automated system as long as they can keep it quick and it doesn't, like, slow things down too much. I think you're going to see that most of the time umpires are still going to be right.
Yeah.
But think about that Christopher Sanchez pitch, right, in the last game against the Dodgers, like, game changer. If they had that, maybe the Phillies win that game. 1-0.
I think it's going to be more relevant when we come around to the playoffs next year and see it. Like, regular season, it's going to get forgotten about eventually by people, by fans. It'll be a big topic for 2 weeks, and then it'll be like, oh, it's a thing. But when that comes around to the playoffs next year, wild card series, big moment, game 3 in one of those wild card series, and one of the calls is changed by that, all the stuff will come back up again, which is, I'd rather the call be right than someone get away with, like, a bad one. Or, like, there was a moment in the Padres series, in the wild card series, where Xander Bogaerts got a call way outside, called a strike, and he lost it, and that was the end of the Padres season.
Right.
Like, it's going to be interesting to the end of season moments that could be changed by a call, like the celebrations going, hold on. Hold on a minute. So I think that's an interesting little topic to go from now, shifting from general to, two more things on general. Cy Young and MVP.
So, the Cy Young is like, look.
The Cy Young will be announced by the time this is out. We do not know yet.
But
it will be announced by the time this comes out.
So we're not going to get what we want, right? Like, we would love to see Christopher Sanchez win the Cy Young, and he had a tremendous season. He is so good. Paul Skeens is just so dominant.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, I'm a little old school in believing that wins are important. Like, you're a great pitcher, but your team doesn't win a lot of games. Like, that kind of, unfortunately for you, but that's a thing. But I think that Christopher Sanchez has a much harder job. He's pitching in front of sold-out crowds at Citizens Bank Park. He's pitching in playoff stretch runs, the the games that mean the most, a lot of pressure, it's harder for him to succeed. I'm not saying that it's easy for Paul Skeens to go out, but like he is pitching in front of, however many people that are left at PNC Park by the end of the year.
Only the people that want to go see it because it's a good ballpark.
That's right. So I think Sanchez, it's harder for Sanchez to get to the numbers he has than it is for Skeens to get to the numbers he has. But if you're just assessing the two pitchers and you're assessing pound for pound talent, like Paul Skeens is absolutely dominant and pretty much every time he goes out there. So I think it's hard for anybody other than him to win that Cy Young.
I think it'll be a closer vote. I'll be interested to see where the two votes 7:00 tonight. I'll be looking to see where the two votes come out because I don't think Skeens will run away. Some quick Cy Young stat numbers. Skeens has a 1.97 ERA in 187 innings, 216 strikeouts, and a .95 WHIP. Sanchez has a 2.50 ERA, 202 innings, 1.06 WHIP, and 212 strikeouts.
Well, and then, let us not forget that you also have this guy from the Brewers, and you also have Yamamoto.
Oh, I forgot about those guys.
So
Yamamoto's up there.
Yeah, I mean, look. There's really good pitching right now in baseball, which I think is what made the Phillies-Dodgers series so great. So it is nice to have those arguments where you could legitimately say like all these guys could probably in any given year win a Cy Young.
What is interesting is because some people, the younger generation of watching baseball, love seeing a lot of home runs, a lot of power, a lot of that. I am still in the point of I love watching a good pitcher. I love watching when. I will still say this, when Aaron Nola's pitching well, he is my favorite pitcher to watch on the Phillies. Because I love watching the curveball and his sinker, and the movement is insane. Watching him, now, the last 2 years have been a disaster, but when he's going, it's going good, and it's fun to watch. So I'm like that type of pitcher. I don't even enjoy as much the fastball pitchers like the 101, more like the Sanchez style, the one that throws a 94, the best changeup in
old school
baseball.
style, I like that.
It's just more. I'll sit there because I sit and watch 162 games a year. I'm going to need to enjoy some. I can't just wait for home runs because that doesn't happen. So I got more into pitching this year. And Sanchez, watching him this year was just. And I watched Wheeler also this year, but I really enjoyed watching Sanchez the most because of that undercutting thing. And Yamamoto is a dominant human being.
He's talented. He is talented.
You do not do. Now, in the Cy Young, they can't. Now, they have to blur their vision from the playoffs.
Correct.
And not vote on, because, you have 2 back-to-back complete games in the playoffs. It's something amazing, but you can't put that in your vision for Cy Young.
And that's what helps Skeens. And by the way, Skeens, he may win this thing, and, how many fans across the country are going to be like, I've never even seen him pitch. Because how many people are watching Pirates games, whereas these guys in the postseason, they see them a lot, and they're like, how did that person not win? How could that person not win? But, when you go this 162, and that's the best out of the 162, that's what you get.
So I'm going to say now probably congrats to Paul Skeens, but we'll
see.
I'll talk when I have Mr. Culp on here next week about that. And then the MVP. We'll probably go to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I don't see how there's any way it doesn't. I mean,
I know it's Ohtani's on. I don't know. I wish I had the American League MVPs up on here, but that one's probably going to Kyle Raleigh.
Yeah, I think that his hitting 60 home runs, being a catcher. I mean, the National League's
hitting catcher.
Yes, and the National League's interesting because honestly, until he got hurt towards the end of the season, you could have almost made the case that Trey Turner was equally as deserving of consideration as Kyle Schwarber, National League hits leader, everything. But like we all love Schwarber, how dominant he was this year. But the reality is that Ohtani is just a generational talent. I mean, he's the Babe Ruth of our generation. He pitches, he hits, he's successful at both. And I don't know how he doesn't win. He's going to win this one, and he's probably going to win a lot more.
It's like they have to make an Ohtani award.
Right.
Because he's taken away like these other players. It does suck that he's in the National League in many reasons.
Correct.
And out west because I can't watch him all the time.
Right.
Many reasons I wanted him on the Blue Jays. Many reasons why he should have gone to the Blue Jays. But yeah, the Schwarber thing, and then Schwarber, I think he's not going to. I don't think Ohtani will win unanimously though.
No, I'm sure.
I
yeah.
think there will be some other votes. I know there's some players that win unanimously. Like
Sure.
we had a top tier season. I do think the other guys will get some votes, and definitely in the American League, I think some other guys
Hey,
will
look,
get some votes.
Ichiro didn't get into the Hall of Fame unanimously, so there's always some rogue writer out there that's going to make up their own mind for some other reason, but I'll never understand that one.
Never understand. Well, then the main, it took me forever to get to actual Phillies main conversation. Number one, happy birthday, Matt Strahm.
Oh,
which
wow.
is
Happy birthday,
Good
Matt
for,
Strahm.
good
All
for
right,
him.
all right.
And then we get into the off season where we all are like, okay, how do we make this baseball team better? What do you want to change? How do you make the baseball team better? Because we're going on this third or fourth year here, losing in the playoffs. Diamondbacks, losing the Astros, the Diamondbacks, the Mets, and now losing to the Dodgers. You're slowly going backwards in your playoff success, but you're going forwards in your regular season success. So it's an interesting dynamic to look at one way or the other. You're doing better in the regular season, but you're doing worse in the playoffs, which could be the teams you're playing. The Mets, that was not the team you were playing. They fell apart while they were going down the stretch last year. The Diamondbacks were not a better team than them, and the Astros, we were just happy we were there. It's euphoria that we were even there. So this year was the first time you got a good team against a good team, and it didn't work out. So what would you do to fix it?
Well, if we just start
It's
at
a big question.
if we just start at the end there, I mean, let's remember that the Dodgers didn't hit a lot in that series either.
So our pitching was
And
great.
it was great pitching versus great pitching. You are correct the way you described it. The end of every season has been a little bit different. The matchup, I agree with you. The Diamondbacks figured out how to pitch the Phillies after about 2 or 3 games in that series, and it changed everything.
The entire
Yeah.
series was over. By that
The
point.
Mets last year, I just feel like the Phillies just weren't a good second half team
They were
last year.
slowly falling apart. Ever
Correct.
since they got back from that London trip, they just went straight downhill.
That's right. Now
And
this
the Mets
year,
went uphill.
right?
Two teams played in London, other directions.
This year, I really do think. I mean, the Blue Jays obviously were there at the end, but Phillies, Dodgers, Blue Jays, in some order, are the 3 best teams in baseball. So you're saying, how do we make this Phillies team better when it's already maybe the second best team in baseball? That's hard. And you're going to get older. You're not necessarily going to get better if you stand pat with what you have. And I think that's
And
a
you're
reality
losing
that they're
players.
facing. Right. So I believe that the most important thing is to keep the pitching intact, because that is an absolute strength of this team. And honestly, starting pitching as well as the bullpen. Bullpens are tough. Year to year, you never know what you're going to get out of relievers. But
we went into 23 with having the best ranked bullpen in baseball, and then it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
That those things. Oh, Phillies #1 ranked bullpen. Alvarado's bad. Kennedy's. All these guys are just.
But I do think you have some proven talents in that bullpen with Duran, and I'm going to put Alvarado back in that mix, and with
Kerkering.
Matt Strahm, and I like Orion Kerkering. He will grow from that moment. There is a good core bullpen. There's a good core in the starting pitching. You still have Painter. You don't know, maybe this is the year for him. But so when I say what do we want to bring back, I think Ranger is a guy that completes that rotation. You can't expect Zach Wheeler, at least I don't think, for a while. I mean, maybe
So you
not.
think that injury is pretty bad?
You just can't rely on having him, right? Nola, you just don't know. What Nola you're getting? Nola's getting older. But you have Sanchez, you have Luzardo.
Do you trust Luzardo?
Oh yeah, I think I absolutely do. Again, every pitcher, it's a long season.
He's had an iffy career. This year was very good.
He was good at the end of the season, and to me, that's a true test, right?
The beginning of the season.
You need guys to be able to pitch well in August and September.
Or just Luzardo. We're just forgetting the 17 runs against the Brewers. We're just going to move on from
Things
that
happen. Every dog's got their day, right? Look, I think with the catching situation, I think everybody knows that there are no catchers out there. And JT Realmuto, even though he's not what he was 5-6 years ago when you signed him the first time, he is the best catcher on the market. And
that will get him a lot of money.
It will get him more money than he might get in other years. But I don't think he's going to get a ton of years from anybody. So if the Phillies can bring him back, maybe you have to spend a little bit more. But that and look, he's another guy that had a pretty decent end of the season. And That's a
from
tough.
I think it was May onward, he was one of the best hitters on the team because in April he was batting .050
Right.
at one point.
Yeah, look, I think you have no choice but to bring him back. I love
he's
Harrison.
One of my most important players to bring back because the way he controls our pitching staff, and I don't know who you go to.
Right. I love Harrison Bader. I think I think he made the Phillies' outfield configuration better because you were able to do some platooning. You were able to keep Marsh in the lineup against righties, and you didn't have to have him in there against lefties. I think it gives you more options. You're going to have Crawford coming up next year. I don't know if Bader's coming back. I mean, this guy's played for a million teams.
Are you a fan of platoons?
If it works, if it's effective, again, going back to my childhood, but the 1993 Phillies, one of the best teams in Phillies history, they platooned Jim Eisenreich and Wes Chamberlain in right field, and Pete Incaviglia and Milt Thompson in left field, and they platooned them all year, and they all had good seasons. And if you look at Bader and Marsh, for example, even Max Kepler got better when he wasn't like towards the end of the season a little bit. But
he did have a great September. I think he batted .313 in September.
When you had those options, it really helped them. Now, with that said, like I don't know how the Nick Castellanos question is big because, look, on one hand, he's in a contract year, which those guys usually produce in the last year of their contract, right? They want the next contract. So, he could have a big year in the last year of this contract. Or
he's also half bought. It feels like he's half bought out on the team.
Well, that's the negative, right? Like we don't know what that we have no idea. You and I, right? We have no idea what it's like in that clubhouse. We have no idea how the other players feel about him. I think we kind of know how him and the manager get along. But like for a guy with 1 year left in their contract, what is available? Like, will they be able to sell him for a decent price? Or is it just worth the risk of bringing him back? Like that's a messy situation. That's probably the hardest question. I think Alec Boehm. If I knew the Phillies had somebody else to play third base, or if they could upgrade in that position, I would trade Boehm in a heartbeat. I don't believe that when Boehm goes to free agency, which I guess is after this coming season, I don't believe he's going to want to stay here. So I think that's a guy who had a pretty decent season. Who's
Alex Bregman is on the market.
Yeah, I mean,
someone to
I think Boehm has some value. He's younger. He's gotten
just the power numbers don't look like.
And that hurts in baseball today. That's what people want. But he's gotten much better defensively. I don't think he hurts you keeping him, but I would love to see if you could just turn him into something else. And then
people have listened to a bunch of these podcasts and know my stance on what I think they should do with Boehm. I think they let him play up to the deadline, trade him at the deadline, and let Aiden Miller come up and play third base, which I think is the easy because then you can he can have value for you. You're renting him to someone who might need him or whatever. You can get value out of that, and then you have this young kid because clearly they're not planning on signing him back because they would have got rid of Aiden Miller already.
Sure.
So
yeah, and that's a good situation for the Phillies to be in. That means that they really have the upper hand. But, of course, if Boehm's having a great year, then you say, hey, let's just keep the guy.
Keep him and then let him go at free agency and see what happens.
Right. So that's an intriguing situation. And that brings up Schwarber, right? Like Schwarber is the big
Did you say
piece.
Did you say Suarez as well?
Oh, yeah. I want to keep Suarez. I want to keep that rotation intact.
And with his history of back issues.
Well, that's why I want 6 guys. Look, you're never going to need all 6, but you will need all 6 all season. There's never a time when that rotation is 100% healthy. So I just think if you think back 2 years ago, they did not have a complete rotation, and they were basically giving away games every 5th day because they didn't have a 5th starter. And to me, that's just why you need
Tyler
those
Phillips
5 guys.
rolled out there.
There were so many guys that
Michael
got rolled
Mercado.
out there. Oh man, it was bad.
It was bad.
So. Look, Schwarber is the big piece. Now, I look at it this way. If you have to sign Schwarber to a longer deal than maybe you would want, my concern is that means that you're committing to that lineup basically being you're committing to the same style of lineup for the next several years because you're going to have Harper the whole time. You're going to have Turner the whole time. Now you're going to have Schwarber. Now you're locking it in. If you don't bring back Schwarber, you have the opportunity maybe to get somebody somebody a little different. Maybe you get Alonso as a right-handed power bat. Kyle Tucker's on the
I
market.
don't know if I would bring Alonso in, just because I feel like one of his strengths is his defense.
Alonso?
Yeah,
No, he's bad
Well,
defensively.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I feel like they would want to play him at first a little bit.
I don't think he's a good first baseman, but I think what it would give you is a little flexibility that
Harper.
you can rest Harper a little bit more. Although Harper's kind of becoming like a Gold Glove first baseman, so I don't know if you want to. But Schwarber's interesting. He's going to get a lot of money. I don't think they should overpay for him, but if somehow they can sneak in and get him for a little bit of a shorter term deal, then I think you pull the plug. I should say you pull the trigger on that. I don't think that Kyle Schwarber is not going to like fall off anytime soon. I mean, this is a guy who's hitting over 50 home runs. Look, if he has a bad year, he's hitting 35 home runs and 90 RBIs, like on a bad year. So he's
going to get money.
He is yes, he's going to get money. He is a valuable piece of the lineup. He is a cornerstone of this team right now.
Probably not a better pure power hitter on the market right now.
And I think he's become a better hitter. Like nobody wants to hit 235. But remember, he was a 200, 190 hitter a couple years ago.
Mendoza line, man.
Yeah. So I love Kyle Schwarber, right? But like, you can't keep everybody. And to your point earlier, do you just keep, as they say, kind of bringing it back? Do you just keep rolling it back year after year with the same team? I mean, they were really good this year. Like the Phillies were
a tale of two seasons.
But they were so good this year, and they lost to the world champions.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that they should be trying to get much better, but
there are some holes on the team where you're like, okay, this could be
if
an
you
issue.
can get better,
like
you try to.
Castellanos could be an issue, or
Right.
Bohm could be an issue. Do you want to try to shake things up a little bit?
Look, I think Castellanos and Bohm are not the guys that make or break this team.
No.
So if there's options to shake things up, there's options to get some good deals, I would do it. Those would be the guys that I would look to get rid of first.
Johan Rojas was made available in trade talks. I can't stand that guy.
Johan Rojas. The Phillies have moved beyond Rio. I think this. It's a shame because every season for how many years now, the talk has been who's playing center field, and
Probably going to be Justin Crawford.
Yeah, well, they finally figured it out with Bader. I mean, he was the guy. But if you're not bringing him back, you're back to that equation again. And Johan Rojas cannot be part of the equation.
I don't think he can be in the organization, or they're going to try to use him.
Yeah, there was a time when I really liked it because he covered a lot of ground, and I'm like, this guy can catch balls, but like,
and then it started to look not as good.
I mean, it's his time has come, I think, but but again, who knows? Like, there are options out there, and there's always guys every year that sign and end up having better years than you expect. Baseball's tough. Like, it's a long season. But the Phillies, I think John Middleton has shown that he's committed to spending money. And, I mean, Dave Dombrowski earned a lot of street cred with his trade deadline acquisitions this year. So I trust those guys. I really do trust those guys. Just like we trust Howie with the Eagles. I trust these guys to do what the team needs.
So with that being said, any final thing you want to say for the Phils before we sign this one off?
Like it's just another fun off season. Like, yes, we're upset. Yes, we wanted a parade. We're tired of not yes, it's been a while, right? But man, like that it's exciting that there's things to look at, to look forward to, and that we know that we're good, and that we know we're going to sell that stadium out every year, every game next year, as long as they stay at least at the level that they're at, right? And I don't think
their level is really good.
I don't think they're in the market for like any kind of a rebuild.
No.
So I think we can look forward to an exciting offseason. This is going to be one of the most exciting off seasons I think we've had in a long time because of our own situation with our own big name and a guy like Schwarber, but also some of these other names that are out there, and to see
Framer Valdez, who struggled this year, but he's a great pitcher.
Right. See how the cards fall, because it'll be fun.
This off season is starting to roll around. There's GM meetings this week and some other stuff coming up. So next week I'll have Mr. Culp on here to talk more Phillies. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
And everyone, I will see all of you next week. That one will be up on Tuesday night. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. So we were about a week or so late. You want to check out the Exit 333 podcast, the Turnpike Exit down the line. That's on my YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description of this. Have a great night, everyone. We will know the Cy Young Award by the time this is out, and the MVP will be tonight at 7 o'clock. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you later.
Thank you.